Hi, I'm Stacey Sumereau, and this is Ascension Presents. Well, hello there, all of you people who are hoping to avoid the convent or the seminary or the monastery. At least I assume that's why you clicked on this video. So here are my reasons, 2 reasons, to avoid discerning religious life or the priesthood. Number 1, if you are already living religious life or the priesthood, or if you're a consecrated virgin. Number 2, if you're married. And that's it. See, it was a bit of a trick. Basically, I think that if you're single and unattached, you should discern religious life or the priesthood. And when I say discern, I don't mean like go in your room and like sit down and light a candle and put on a Gregorian chant CD and then just like ask God, what do you want me to do? And then you hear a moment later this voice in your head that sounds a bit like Morgan Freeman, which is like, you know, I want you to be a nun, or you're off the hook, you can get married, or something like that. When I say discern, I mean that you should actually seriously consider it. You should do some research online. You should look up some websites. You should call some vocation directors, have a conversation. And I would advise scheduling at least 3 visits in person. Why do I say this? Well, because the benefits of my discerning religious life have been so manifold in my life. And when I was in my 20s, everyone was really encouraging me to go for my dreams and go after what I wanted. And I wish there had been more voices saying to me, you know, you really should consider what God wants, what God's dream for you was when he created you. And so I want to be that voice for you, because discerning religious life, even though I wasn't ultimately called to be a nun, was the best thing that I could have done for myself in my 20s. Just as we give God the first fruits of our labor when we tithe, we're also called to give God, I think, the first fruits of our time. So if you're single, you're unattached, go for it. Why not? Now, this is not something that you're going to find in the catechism. There's no rule stating that every young person has to discern religious life or the priesthood. This is just my opinion, and I'm going to tell you why I think it. I'm aware that there are exceptions. There could be potentially exceptions. For example, if you are engaged and you've got a wedding date on the calendar, hopefully you have done good discernment before the engagement ring went on the finger. It's possible that you might need to take a U-turn and actually go schedule some visits at some seminaries or convents or whatever, but chances are you should probably stick with the trajectory that you're on. There could also be health conditions or maybe disabilities that might prevent you from entering religious life or the priesthood, but that is a case-by-case basis, and you won't actually know until you make phone calls and do the research. Like I said before, the benefits of having spent time in discernment of my vocation have been just massive in my life. Number 1, it got me out of thinking about myself 24/7 and focusing on what I want and being so self-focused. And that was really helpful, because whenever you enter a vocation, you are called to be selfless. And so it really got me thinking along the lines of, you know, I am part of a larger tapestry. I have a purpose beyond myself. Additionally, my husband discerned religious life for 6 years. He wanted to be a Carthusian monk, which is really funny that he married me, because I'm like the most talkative person in the world. The benefits of his personal formation are just manifold in our life as a married couple. You know, I get to reap the benefits of his spiritual formation, of his prayer life, of his character, and that makes him a really awesome person to be married to. Additionally, we both gained a network of amazing people who are praying for us. Even if you're not called to it, it's just amazing to have these people who are inspiring you and walking through this journey with you. I cannot even express how inspiring and holy all of the religious people that I met along my journey. Also, one other thing worth mentioning is that religious discernment really helped me to actually learn how to hear the Lord's voice, what his voice actually sounds like, and the different ways that I can hear him, which I didn't know before. So if you are looking to enter any vocation, I just highly recommend giving God the first fruits of your time. Now, because of my work in ministry with young men and women who are wonderful and they're seeking to do God's will for their lives, I hear a lot of the common reasons why people don't want to discern religious life. Because of my work in vocational discernment ministry, I hear from a lot of wonderful young men and women around the world who are trying to do God's will for their lives. A lot of times, the reasons that they have for trying to avoid discerning religious life or the priesthood have something in common. So I'm going to address 3 of the most common reasons that I see why people want to avoid discerning religious life or the priesthood, and then I'm going to answer them. So the first is a fear of wasting time. Oh my gosh, I feel this one so much. When I was in my 20s, I just felt so much pressure to know what I was doing and to have something to say to people when they're like, well, what projects are you working on? What are you up to? I really wanted to accomplish my goals and have all my timelines met. And Can I just tell you that if you waste time for God, it is not wasted time at all. God, you give him a day, he'll give you a month. You give him a month, he'll give you a year. You give him a year, he'll give you a lifetime. And if you give him your life, he will give you eternity. The benefits of a season of intentional discernment, you really, really can never measure them. Even if nothing practical is accomplished, the work that's going to be done in your heart and your soul, you'll be eternally grateful for that time. I mentioned in one of my other videos that the most important things in life are not things, they are people, they are the relationships. And when you take time to work on this relationship, the benefits you're going to reap are going to just be massive. Things pass away. God does not. When I started discerning religious life, I was 25 years old. That was the same age my mom was when she got married to my father, and then she had a baby starting at 26. So for me to like stop everything and to give God a year of my life was like so scary. And I was thinking, I'm like, well, what if I'm not called to the convent? And then I'll be 27, maybe 28 by the time I'm done discerning. And then, then I have to discern marriage. And maybe I'm going to be 30 before I meet someone. And then we won't get married till I'm 35. And then I won't have a baby till I'm 37. Like, it's all just going to take so long. Pause, Stacey, put on the brakes. I'm so glad that I did, because after that year of discernment that I gave God, once I was done, I met my husband within a few months. We got engaged 5 months after we met. We got married 9 months after that. I had a baby 9 months after that, and another baby 364 days later. So I don't know what your story is going to look like, but from my life and from what I've lived, I can testify that God does not work on normal human timelines, and he can speed things up so much faster than you can imagine. So when my husband and I met, I think it really was because we had mutually and separately discerned religious life, that we had that foundation where we could just meet and almost immediately know that we were meant to get married. The second reason that a lot of people want to avoid discerning religious life or the priesthood is because they're afraid that the life of sacrifice, poverty, chastity, and obedience is just too hard, that they couldn't be happy in a life where they would just be like praying all the time. Let me just let you know that any vocation God is going to call you to is going to require its own rules of poverty, chastity, and obedience. In my life as a wife and a mother, my resources, my time are all at the disposal of my family. There's not one vocation that's the fun vocation and then one vocation that's like the hard vocation. It's all hard, and it is all fun as well. I mean, from visiting the convent, I know that those ladies, they know how to have a good time. They are shockingly joyful. I have never seen people laugh so hard and so much as the women who I met in the convent. I'm not trying to say this to scare you away from motherhood, but like there's no guarantee in motherhood that I'm ever going to get 15 minutes throughout the day to myself to take a shower and have a decent meal. Whereas in religious life, you go to bed at night and your cup has been filled in every arena. You've had time to work, to recreate, to eat meals, to pray, to sleep. It's a beautiful life. It's a very structured life, but it really does fill your cup and it really does take care of your every need. It's not that one vocation is harder than the other, but every vocation is going to require 100% of what you have to give. And third, I noticed there are a good number of assumptions that people make that may or may not actually be true. For example, I have an anxiety disorder and it's being managed, but that will definitely exclude me from a religious life in the priesthood. Not necessarily. I mean, have you actually called? Have you actually spoken with a vocation director? Have you actually pursued it with a couple of different orders and brought it up and see what they thought? Don't automatically assume that anything is going to exclude you. In my own life, I know I assumed that religious life couldn't possibly be for me because I was a performer. I did 2 Broadway tours, and I thought that in order for me to have a full and complete life, I needed to be an artist. And I couldn't possibly do that as a nun. And therefore, I couldn't possibly be called to religious life. Well, around that time, my mom actually gave me a book by Mother Dolores Hart. Dolores Hart was a movie star in the 1950s and 60s. She was an amazing actress, and I think she got a Tony nomination. She was on Broadway as well. She was Elvis's first on-screen kiss, so she was a really big deal. So my mom gave me her autobiography, and me being impulsive me, I was like, I have to go meet this woman. So I drove up to Connecticut to her abbey, the Abbey of Regina Laudis. And when I got on the property, I was shocked to see how cloistered Benedictine nuns could have such a full artistic life. One nun I know does metalworking statues, and so she had her statues all over the property. They actually have a semi-professional community theater on the property. So the nuns come together with the community every summer to make semi-professional professional shows, theater shows. And then they also sing the Liturgy of the Hours. So they're constantly chanting, constantly singing. One sister, I think, is like a master cheesemaker. So she actually makes cheese and sells it at the gift shop. And then they even restored this like 100-figure nativity creche. There's a very famous duplicate at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But these sisters have a duplicate, and it's from like the 17th century or something. And they restored these beautiful dolls. So they like re-sewed the clothes and I guess restored all of these figurines like this big. Now, at the time, very randomly, I actually had a side hustle where I was actually making caricatures, making dolls of people. And so to see that these nuns were not only singing, acting, and dancing, but then also making dolls, I had to sit down and be like, okay, God, you were right. I should never put you in a box of my own making. I shouldn't just decide that because I think and assume that you can't use these gifts, that you in fact can't use them. And that was the day I decided to enter into my discernment of religious life. And you'll just be surprised. If you're not a nurse or a teacher, you might assume that your gifts wouldn't be used. But they very well will be. God can use your gifts in a whole variety of ways that you could never foresee. So, all of that basically to say, this is a loving kick in the pants from your sister who is a couple years ahead of you. So all of you who are single, I just highly, highly encourage you to go out and give God the first fruits of your time and see what he has for your future. From all of us here at Ascension Presents, may God bless you, and please know of my prayers for you and your future. I always have people who are discerning their vocations very close to my heart, so know that you are in my prayers.